There is more water on this moon than on every ocean of Earth combined. It is hidden under 15 miles of ice. It has been there for 4 billion years. Completely cut off from the sun, completely cut off from us. And in October 2024, NASA launched a $1.5 billion spacecraft to go find out what is living in it. Not if, what? This is Europa, one of the 4 largest moons of Jupiter. From a telescope, it looks like nothing. Pale, smooth, a frozen marble 400 million miles from the sun, where temperatures on the surface drop to minus 170 degrees Celsius. Cold enough that exposed water would freeze instantly. Cold enough that the entire crust is made of ice harder than granite. But under that ice, there is an ocean. Not a sea, not a lake. A global ocean, 60 miles deep, twice the volume of every ocean on Earth combined. Salty, warm enough to stay liquid. In direct contact with a rocky seafloor. And possibly heated from below by hydrothermal vents identical to the ones at the bottom of our own oceans, where, 4 billion years ago, the first life on Earth may have begun. Now imagine that. Imagine an environment where every condition we believe is necessary for life, liquid water, energy, organic chemistry, time, is not just present, but has been undisturbed for longer than life has existed on Earth. Imagine 4 billion years of complete isolation, no asteroid impacts to sterilize it, no extinction events, no predators arriving from outside. Just one ocean, in the dark, evolving on its own. If life ever started in that ocean, it is still down there. It has had longer to develop than any biosphere we know of in the universe. Which is why, last October, NASA did something it has never done before. It launched the largest spacecraft it has ever built for a planetary mission. A 6,000-pound, 100-foot-wide robot equipped with 9 instruments designed for one purpose: to look through the ice, to see what is underneath. To determine, beyond reasonable doubt, whether Europa is habitable or already inhabited. The probe will not arrive until April 2030, but what we already know about this moon is enough to make the world's leading astrobiologists more cautious and more nervous than they have been about any target in the solar system. Because the closer we look at Europa, the more it stops behaving like a moon, and starts behaving like a world that is hiding something. For most of human history, Europa was just a dot. Galileo Galilei spotted it in January 1610 through a homemade telescope. For 380 years after that, it was nothing more than a name, a pinpoint of light orbiting Jupiter every 3.5 days. That changed in 1979. When Voyager 2 flew past, it sent back the first close-up images of the surface. And what astronomers saw stopped them cold. The moon was almost completely smooth, smoother than any object they had ever seen. Almost no craters, almost no mountains, just a vast, pale, cracked plain, covered in long, dark, rust-colored streaks that ran for thousands of miles in straight lines. Those streaks are called linea, and the only way they make sense is if the entire crust of Europa is floating. Floating on something liquid underneath. Something that occasionally fractures the ice from below, lets water rise through the cracks, and refreezes, leaving those rust-red scars across the surface. That was the first clue. But it could have been a slush layer, a thin pocket, a localized melt. It did not have to be an ocean. The real answer came 2 decades later. From magnetism. In the late 1990s, NASA's Galileo orbiter flew through Jupiter's intense magnetic field, and as it passed close to Europa, its magnetometer recorded something impossible. Europa was generating its own magnetic field, a weak one, an induced one. The kind of field that only forms when a large mass of salty, electrically conductive liquid moves through an external magnetic field. There is only one substance that fits the data, a global, salty liquid ocean. 60 miles deep, twice the water of Earth. Maintained in liquid state for billions of years by something Earth doesn't have. Tidal flexing. Jupiter's gravity is so strong, and Europa's orbit is so eccentric, that the moon is squeezed and stretched on every revolution. That stretching generates heat. Continuous, internal heat, enough to keep the entire ocean liquid forever. But here's what really changes the calculation. In 2012, the Hubble Space Telescope detected something it should not have been able to see. Plumes of water vapor erupting from the south polar region of Europa. Geysers, 200 kilometers tall, shooting water out into space. That meant 2 things at once. 1, the ocean is reaching the surface, or the surface is reaching the ocean. The two layers are connected. 2. Anything Europa Clipper sends an instrument through in 2030 would taste the ocean directly, without ever drilling, without ever landing, just by flying through one of those plumes. And tasting it is exactly what Clipper is designed to do. It carries a mass spectrometer sensitive enough to detect a single organic molecule per cc of plume material. It carries an ice-penetrating radar that can map the structure of the crust to a depth of 19 miles. It carries cameras that will resolve the surface down to half a meter per pixel, sharp enough to read the side of a parked car. The mission is not designed to find life. NASA has been very careful never to say that. It is designed to determine habitability. But the line between those two answers is thinner than NASA wants to admit. Here's the part nobody talks about. When NASA designs a mission to a place that might already be inhabited, it follows a set of rules called planetary protection. The idea is simple. Do not contaminate. Do not bring Earth microbes to a world where they could survive, multiply, and erase whatever was there before us. It is the reason that, in 2003, NASA deliberately destroyed the Galileo orbiter. They flew it directly into Jupiter at full speed to make sure it could never crash into Europa by accident, because they could not guarantee it had been sterilized well enough. That is how seriously they take this question. Europa Clipper will not orbit Europa, it will orbit Jupiter and pass close to Europa 49 times. Each flyby will collect data and pull away. The spacecraft is forbidden from staying, forbidden from landing, forbidden from drilling. And at the end of the mission, like Galileo before it, it will be deliberately crashed into Ganymede this time, where the surface radiation environment is harsh enough to destroy any surviving Earth microbes within months. Now imagine the problem in the other direction. If life is already there, actually there, swimming, dividing, evolving in that buried ocean, what does it look like? It evolved in total darkness. It never saw the sun. It never knew oxygen. The only energy source available to it would be chemical, hydrogen, sulfur, methane, slowly leaking from hydrothermal vents at the seafloor. That is not science fiction. We have life like that on Earth. At the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, in places where no light has ever reached, entire ecosystems thrive around volcanic vents. Tube worms 8 feet long, microbial mats, chemosynthetic bacteria that build the base of a food chain without needing the sun at all. Those organisms are some of the oldest forms of life on this planet, and they survive in conditions almost identical to what we believe exists at the bottom of Europa's ocean. If the same thing happened on Europa 4 billion years ago, it would still be going. It would have evolved without us, without anything from the surface above, in silence, in the dark, for longer than complex life has existed on Earth. Europa Clipper arrives at Jupiter in April 2030. Its first closed flyby of Europa is scheduled for May of that year. The first plume measurements will follow within months. By 2031, we will know the chemistry of the ocean. By 2032, we will have a map of every fracture, every plume, every active site on the moon. NASA will not announce that they have found life. That is not how this works. They will announce, carefully, that the conditions for life appear to be present, that biosignatures are detected, that further investigation is warranted. But the day after they say it, the day they confirm what is hidden under that ice, will be the day everything changes. We sent something out there. It will arrive in 5 years. And what it finds is not going to be a question of whether the universe is empty. It is going to be a question of how loud we are willing to admit it isn't.